We're standing in front of the Caesars Superdome, which will be lit up in orange tonight to draw attention to the toll that gun violence is taking on our families and our city as a whole. And just last night, a deadly shooting in the Broadmoor neighborhood was another sad reminder of what has become a public health crisis in the city.
The police last night, that's where they were.
It happened Thursday night around 9:40 down the street from former New Orleans City Councilman Jim Singleton's home.
Totally frustrated. The whole concept of what's going on around me nowadays is frustrating.
"34-year-old Keisha Cherrie Gray was a loving and kind woman who was always willing to help others, a true people person. Most importantly, she was a mother of 3 to a 14-year-old boy, a 2-year-old girl, and a 6-month-old baby boy. Her Facebook profile says she studied health administration at Delgado Community College and worked as a secretary at East Jefferson General Hospital in Metairie. She recently celebrated her oldest child's graduation from middle school last week and was proud that he would be entering high school in August. She had dreams of watching him cross the stage in 4 years and head off to college. Never could anyone have imagined that Keisha's dreams would soon be cut short. Around 9 p.m. on June 1st, New Orleans police were called to a home in the 3800 block of General Taylor Street in New Orleans' Broadmoor neighborhood for reports of a shooting. Upon entering the home, they would find an unresponsive adult female lying on the kitchen floor in a pool of blood.
NOPD on the scene now. You're taking a live look. This is the 3800 block of General Taylor Street in the Broadmoor neighborhood. We know one woman was shot and killed. She was pronounced dead on the scene. At this point, NOPD have not released any other details, but as we get more information, we'll share it with you.
The victim was identified as 34-year-old Keisha Cherrie Gray, who was taken to a local hospital where she was sadly pronounced dead after suffering from at least one gunshot wound to her cheek. According to the father of Keisha's 2 youngest children, he was visiting his mother when Keisha called to say she wanted him to move out after learning that he was cheating on her. Once inside of the home, he says Keisha was already packing his clothes. After allegedly trying to speak with her to calm her down, he says Keisha went to the kitchen and grabbed a knife and began threatening him. He then told investigators he feared for his life and fired a gun in her direction in front of her 3 children. He said he then took their children and left, went to his mother's home again, and then to a Harvey restaurant to talk with relatives before returning to the crime scene to call police. Police say Keisha did not have a knife in her hand, but that 2 knives had been placed underneath her legs. According to an affidavit, the 2 had no records of previous domestic violence incidents and no records of calls for help from the couple's address this year. Keisha is the 3rd fatal shooting of a woman in the city of New Orleans this week and the 9th in the past 6 weeks.
And new information tonight about a New Orleans mother killed just over 24 hours ago. Family says she was shot while her 3 children were in the home. Good evening, and thank you for joining us. I'm Devin Bartolotta.
And I'm Cherrie Gibson. Today on National Gun Violence Awareness Day, we are looking at the rise in violence against women. Again, learning in the last few minutes that another woman was killed.
As experts stress, the city needs to overhaul its mindset if we want to stop the violence. Eleanor Tabone has the story.
NOPD arrested 34-year-old Loston Lee in connection to the fatal shooting of a 34-year-old woman here at the 3800 block of General Taylor. This incident marks the 8th woman to be shot across the city of New Orleans in the past 6 weeks. According to our partners at NOLA.com, Keisha Cherrie Gray was a mother of 3. Her accused killer is the father of her 2 youngest children.
You have children who are now growing up without their mothers.
Dr. Reggie Parkway from Tulane University says there are a number of reasons women are being killed. According to the CDC, 41% involve domestic violence.
Here in the city, we've seen more women be murdered than we saw in the last several years, almost double the number.
We did not get into this crisis in a year, and we're not going to get out of it in a year.
This week, the U.S. Department of Justice announced new initiatives to prevent and address sexual and intimate partner violence and stalking.
The steps that we are taking and need to take to address intimate partner violence are critical to understanding any increase in female homicide.
Back in Broadmoor, where Gray was killed, neighbour and former New Orleans City Council member Jim Singleton says he doesn't understand why women are being targeted.
I was here when Pennington came in, and we had all of the crime problems back then, but it did not include women the way it is today.
Experts and leaders say we need to work together to change the city's mindset.
In newly released details from our partners at NOLA.com, police say the suspect in Gray's killing staged the crime scene to make it appear to be self-defense. An affidavit says Lost and Lee took their children to his mother's house after the shooting, then to a restaurant before returning to the crime scene to call police.
34-year-old Lost and Lee was taken into custody and charged with second-degree murder. Lee is being represented by the Public Defender's Office, which did not immediately reply to a request for comment. The case remains ongoing.
As the arrest was being made, city leaders and University Medical Center ER doctors gathered in front of City Hall, marking National Gun Violence Awareness Day. Homicide is the 7th leading cause of death in New Orleans and the 4th leading cause for black men.
This is a true public health crisis in New Orleans, and it has been so for a very long time.
Doctors who work in the UMC Trauma Center know the impacts of gun violence all too well.
As an ER doctor at university, I see way more than I ever wanted to, the devastation being affecting our community. I see it in our individuals, our patients, their families being torn apart.
It's absolutely shocking what a bullet can do to a human body. It can shred entire organs and essentially destroy a human body.
This is the city council.
Back in Broadmoor, for the first time in Jim Singleton's long life in and out of politics, he doesn't know what to do to fix a problem weighing so heavy on the city.
I don't know how to solve the problem, and it frustrates me when you don't have an answer as to how you can resolve something that's going on around you. And now it hits me in my own block. That's even worse.
The city is now working with UMC to expand its trauma recovery services and hospital-based violence intervention program.